Thanks for making us a part of your morning. This is Good Morning PD on Live 95.
Welcome back to Good Morning PD Live 95. I want to thank our good friends at McCall Farms. As part of my new contract, I asked that Rev had a certain number of words he's allowed to say per
and no more
per show.
Yeah,
and no more than that. You're right, and I've kept tabs over here on how many you've said. But you said something very interesting during the break. You hardly ever say anything very interesting, but during the break, you did say something.
Well, and
I'm kidding.
I saved
our
the
listeners
interesting.
Know you're much brighter than I, just far quieter.
Oh, whatever. Interesting words. I save those for during the break, so listeners don't hear them. Just for you. No, I was. If you just listen to everything we're talking about, it almost sounds like we're saying all prescribed drugs are bad, all painkiller prescribed drugs are bad, all opioids are bad. And I was just saying, thank God we have some of these drugs to deal with pain. And of course, this is specifically for opioids, but I mean, thank God for drugs like blood pressure drugs and things that help you live a longer, healthier life. But it makes it sound like we're saying all opioid drugs are bad and there's no use for them.
We're certainly not saying that. Here's what I'm saying. And this is more societal than it is medical. I believe that we have, once again, I believe this country has been conditioned to conform. Some of our listeners believe that. Some of our listeners I don't think fully understand what I'm saying. I believe that our country has been conditioned to not really think for themselves. I think it's been organized. I think it's been effective. I think it has worked. And I think a lot of us look to somebody else to tell us what we believe and what we should think. And I believe the independent thought and the independent thinker are a paramount ingredient to a successful American experiment. You've got to be willing to make your own mind up. And I got to be willing to make my own mind up. And I believe over the past 50 or 60 or 70 years, there's been an incredibly organized effort by powers to be. I call them the self-appointed masters of the universe. And they have basically convinced the American public, we know better than you. Don't make a decision based on what you believe or feel or think or your faith leads you. Make your decision and take your stand because the smart people have figured it out for you. And I think that's a ridiculous place to be. I think that we've convinced, and I'll take opioids out of the equation. I'll use medicine in general. I believe there are far too many young people taking medicine for ADDHD or ADDD, DDHH, whatever. What happened to hard-headed? What happened to stubborn? We talked about the masculinity of America. Little boys, guess what? They behave like little boys. But we have been conditioned as parents to believe, well, if my kid won't sit still in a desk for an hour and a half, he's got some medical condition. No, he's a hard-headed little boy, and some are more hard-headed than others. And I think we've gotten to a place in America that there's appeal for everything under the sun. There's appeal for making your child sit in that desk for an hour and a half. And I'll say this, I believe a lot of it is lazy parenting. Being a parent's hard work. Dealing with a hard-headed 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or 12-year-old is hard work. Back to your example, I'm not saying there aren't occurrences and examples of where medication is the absolute priority, should be prescribed this medicine. I just believe that we live in a country now that if the smart people say this is what you need to do, that's what we need to do. And we were told 15 or 17 or 18 years ago, these drugs weren't addictive. They were in your best interest. And rest assured, greed will trump compliance every single time. If a pharmaceutical company has a chance to comply or be greedy, guess what they're going to do? They're going to be greedy. And I believe these pharmaceuticals have not done the right thing. They have basically put profit ahead of compliance and informing the public. But it's our fault as the public. If you really peel the onion all the way back, the less informed we are as 320 million Americans, the less thinking we do as 320 million Americans, guess what? There's probably 6 or 8 or 10 million that can write the marching orders. And we're kind of a nation of zombies. We fall in line, we walk in lockstep, and we do what the smart people say we should do, whether it's the right or wrong thing. There's no reason in this world that as many people are on opium should be on it. There's no reason in this world as many young kids are being prescribed medications, because parenting that kid might take more effort than you're willing to give. So let's give him a pill because he's got ADA. No, he doesn't. He's hard-headed. He's stubborn. He's a kid. Deal with it. Let's go to the phone.
Dale's up next. Hey, Dale.
Hey, guys. Going right along with this, a few years ago I blew a disc in my neck, and the gel from that disc was pushing up a nerve bundle in my spinal cord, and I had the most excruciating pain I've ever had in my life. Now, in the 3 weeks I had to wait to get surgery, they prescribed me some medication, and I was so thankful because I'd never hurt that bad. But before I ever had my surgery, for my post-surgery recovery, they prescribed me 80 10-milligram oxycodone pills. Before they ever knew how much pain I was in. I took one that night, and that was the only one I ever took. And why they felt like they had to prescribe me 80, and I shouldn't say I don't know, because I do know, because that's what the government and Big Pharma has told them, the doctors, to do, and the doctors are doing it. And as far as the other issue goes with the ADHD thing, Ken, another big thing that's happening is you talk about the bad parenting. Well, we've got teachers in school that will, like you said, if a child can't sit there for an hour and a half, that teacher wants that kid on medication pronto because they don't want to deal with them. And I'll go off and hear y'all's response.
Well said. Thank you, Dale. Appreciate that. And I think it's because, and I think it really goes back even a step further than just the medication realities. I think it is this country has been convinced that we're better off without 320 million people deciding individually, but let these smart people, the political class, because that's where a lot of our influence comes from in America today, is the process of politics. It affects all of our lives in a very real and non-abstract way. And once again, Rev, I'll say this. When we talk about compliance, it loses to greed every single time. Let's take a break. We'll come back after the break. Good Morning PD, Live 95.